This lesson is dedicated to the material rollout, which is going to give you some really great control over populating your scattered objects and then just distributing a different variation of color from gradient, and we'll learn how to use it as a map. Now this is really great if you're using some of your Forest Pack presets and you want to give a little bit of a tinge when it comes to the color so it looks more natural and possibly even going into a different season. So I've already set up the scene, very basic. Again, I've got a teapot, simple distribution. Again, I've got a very simple render as well. There is no material attached to this object. Now that's important when we get to the part of adding it from a map. So right now, very simple, very standard. The material slot over here, let's start with the color tint. Now the random strength of 0 to 0 means it's switched off, which is good if you want it to be whatever material you've actually put onto the object. Now if we take this and just put this at 100 for example and press enter, it is now going to take a random variation between this color gradient and that color gradient, and then of course from 0 to 100%, so you can see all of the objects have a different tinge or color tone, which is really great. If I obviously come inside here, you can naturally just change it to any color that you do want, and then this is how you control the different colors that you do want. The next option is get from map. Now if I activate get from map, the gradient is switched off, but the random strength is still important because that is what is going to control how much of the map you actually want. Now using the map function is excellent, especially if you, for example, are scattering a whole bunch of cars and you want them all to be very different colors. Now the way that this one works is, if we can go into the material editor, you'll see that I've already got a very simple material. Let's click view image and you'll see that it is literally just a palette of all these different colors. Now what I'm going to do is straight from the bitmap, and again it can be a normal bitmap, Corona or V-Ray, click drag into the material slot, say instance. Let's go back to our render, and now you can see that it has randomly chosen a pixel from that bitmap and allocated it to one of the objects. Now the strength will help you determine how dark you want the colors as well. For example, if I put 50 to 100%, you can see the colors have darkened. If I go 100% strength, then it's only picking basically the darkest pixels that it can find. Next we have as texture map channel. This is great. Again, if you remember, whenever you see a map channel, that means that we can control the actual distribution by using the UVW map coordinates on the object. So what I'm going to do is, and again, this always just helps me when I want to visually see something. I'm going to attach this to a diffuse slot, standard material, and I'm just going to attach that to this plane. Let's have a look at it in the viewport, and you can see it's a very simple procedure that I've done. Again, this is just so I can visually see what I'm doing. Next, I'm going to go as texture per channel. I'm going to activate the plane. I'm going to add a UVW map modifier here, and then we can shoot up a render and have a look at the results we get. Now immediately you can see what it's actually done. Wherever the pivot point of the actual object is, so you must remember that the pivot point's in the middle, so it's picking up this color. Even though it is touching the yellows, its pivot point is here, and that's why it's adopting the color. So you can see that I've controlled this perfectly according to the actual map. Now again, that is controlled with the UVW map. So for example, if I just turn this to tiling of 2, you can immediately see how it has changed, and all the colors have changed because obviously the UVW has changed the bitmap itself. Let's go back into our Forest Pack editor, command panel. So that is the as texture map channel. Remember, you've got to use a UVW mapping modifier there. Let's stop this render. The next thing I'd like to show you is if you do want to attach an actual material to the object, because if you remember in the beginning I mentioned that there is no material attached to the teapot. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach just a standard gray material right over there, click instance, let's grab a render, and now have a look. Now it is not actually using any of the map that we just did. So we chose the color JPEG, random values doesn't work, as texture map channel doesn't work, even the get color from gradient is not working anymore, and that is because of this color tint and correction requires forest color. Now Forest Pack, if we go into the material editor quickly and we just do a quick search over here, has its own parameter called forest color. So you will need to attach this to all of your materials. Thankfully what they've done is the following. there is a optimize materials button. So right now, this is the standard material that I have that is attached to my teapots. If I click optimize materials, standard settings are great to use. Press the optimize button, say yes, and immediately you can see in all the diffuse slots what it's done for you. It's attached the forest color. This is really, really important to do, otherwise it's not going to work. Now if we go back into the render, now we can see that all of them are adopting all these colors. So just for now, let me actually grab and remove the image from the render, and now you can see more clearly. So now that we added the forest color, we can use the color tints and the color correction. So that's really, really important. If there is no material in there, then it will automatically work. That's not a problem. If there is a material in here, make sure to click optimize. Really, really important. Okay, let's close that for a second and let us go into the grass. Now, again, I've set up a very, very basic forest pack. Let's go into the settings and have a look. So we just discussed, if I go into material editor, that we are going to need the material as the optimized version. So let's click and drag the actual material that it comes with, click the instance button and have a look here. It already has the forest color, so all that work has been done already for us, which is really, really good. But there is one extra step that you need to do if you are wanting to actually use these color tints. Every material that has the forest color, which is this parameter over here, you'll see that there is an override function over here as well. If this button is ticked, that means I'm controlling everything from here. So what that means is as follows. In my settings of my actual forest pack, the material settings here applies to every single item that I have over here. So if I put this at 0, for example, every single item will adopt that setting. So this is the global setting. If you want each material to have its own tint, then you can come over here and click override. So that's really important. If you want everything to be controlled globally, then you can untick the override. So for example, let's check this out in a scenario. I'm going to render this out. This is the standard forest pack preset. I have not touched anything, and you can see it looks really, really good. So let us now manipulate this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to untick override. Now remember, what that means is if I'm unticking override, that everything will be controlled by using these parameters. So making sure that every single one that I have, I'm unticking the override as I want to control it globally. Now what I can do is if I come in here and do something completely obvious to see the difference, I'm going to make this 100% red to 100% red. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot up a render, and you'll see that everything will be red now. Okay, what about get color from map? If I activate that, we'll see that everything goes gray, which is fine. So what we'll need to do is go into material editor. Let's grab our color bitmap, click and drag and say instance. Let's go back into our render, and now we can start seeing all the different colors and tones that we are getting from the actual bitmap. If we want it as texture per channel, we can do that. Remember, we need to make sure that we click on the actual scattering surface, and let's add a UVW map modifier to it, and then you can see all the beautiful colors that are coming through from the actual bitmap. There are other maps that we can actually add, so let's go back into the modifier. I've got this map that I created, so I'm going to click and drag that into the color map. I'm going to click on instance. Let us go back into the rendering engine and select render and have a look. And as you can see, really awesome, I created a very beautiful pattern and the colors using one of the presets. So you can create basically just about anything that you actually want. Got one more example to show you. Let's go into the material editor, scroll down. I've got the logo. Let's click instance, go straight into a render again, and then you can see how easy it is to actually create a very awesome looking forest with basically any design that you want. Next is the color correction. So let's click the stop button, and the final camera over here is called rocks. So again, I've set everything up for us. And if I click render, you'll see very simple. Again, I've used 2 forest packs and 2 presets. I've just got a grass with some weeds, and I've got a rock over here. So what we need to do is select the Rocks Forest Pack. Let's go to Material Editor, and I'm going to click and drag this material and make sure it's instance. You can see it's got a forest color node already, which we just discussed over here. We do have a variation item and element, which we'll discuss now. First, I want to look at this, apply color correction. So this tick over here is going to allow us to actually use this particular set of tools. So in this render that we have over here, this is a really great way of actually matching certain elements in your scene to match your environment instead of taking it into Photoshop. Now what's really important is to understand that the apply to hue range, if this is ticked, it will only make changes for this type of hue. So let me come over here, and I'm going to pick something completely random like the red over here. I've chosen red, it is ticked. Nothing will happen if I touch any of these dials, and that is because it will only change the hue, saturation, brightness in the hue range. Now let me quickly set this all the way back to 0, and I'm going to untick this. Now what it's saying is it doesn't matter the range. All of these settings will actually work. You can see I've desaturated that rock completely. I can change the brightness if I wanted, and I can change the hue and shift. If again you do want to make sure that you're only going to work within these ranges, what I would do is I would tick it, click on this icon. Now remember, you can use the pixel color. So click, drag, hold it in, and select the color of the element that you want. Once you've got that, click the OK button, and now you can start fiddling and manipulating in the hue range that you have selected, which again is really, really useful. And the last function I'd like to go to is in the teapot section, which is the item and element variation. Let's go into Material Editor. Let us go into the teapot forest pack, making sure we got the right material. So this is the material, click and drag instance, that is on our teapots, making sure that it's got a forest color node, which is perfect. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the colored bitmap and put it in the color tint slot. So now when I shoot up a render, we are now using the map to control all of the colors, which we've just discussed. The item scroll to element is telling us, do we want the entire item to be one color, or do you want to start splitting it up between the different elements? So if your object is made up of different elements, you can actually further choose different tones and colors based off obviously your bitmap over here to show in your render. So this is really handy if you want that. Blending mode is a lot of fun as well. You can play around with all the different options that you do have here, just like you are in Photoshop. And to finish off the lesson, I'd like to show you the top part of the forest color material and what it can do for you and your models. So the first thing to do is make sure that the model is selected. I'm going to go to the Material Editor. Right over there, this is the material of the object. Click, drag, let go, say instance. I'm going to zoom in. Now the forest color has already been attached, and we can see that there is a default map that is linked to map number 1. So if we click on there and say view image, it is the leaf that is being used. In map number 2, view image, it is the same leaf, just different tone. And then the third one, same concept, just a little bit more brown. So let's close that. So right now I've got 3 maps. If I go inside the forest color, I've got the name of the map. I've got it from element, which we've discussed. You can do item or element. In this case, element is the best because we want all the leaves to be different. We've got the name of map number 1, 2, and 3. This is called the probability, meaning how often you want to see the leaf, and then on and off switch. So right now, let's leave number 1 on, probability of 100. Let's load up a render, and let's start the render. So right now, we are using one map, which means the leaves will all be green. So you can start seeing now that if you want to change the season of a tree or just get a little bit of variation, the process is pretty simple. You go into forest color right over there and you just attach different maps. So right now we got map number 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to untick number 1 and let's only have map number 2 and leave it at 100. You'll see that all the leaves have actually changed color, which is great. Same concept will apply. Untick number 2, let's go to number 3, and they'll all appear brown. And this is where it can get really, really great in terms of variation, because what we can do is we can slowly start manipulating all the different tones and get different results. So if I activate all three of those, you can see the different variation that I'm getting in my actual renders, which means all my trees are going to look really different and really, really good. So that's it for this lesson.